ultimate flexibility, change in mindset. For a while there, we had a reduction in unplanned absences as well, which aided. I guess if you're feeling a little under the weather and you really can't go to work, but you've got the option to work from home, it does definitely help. One of the other shifts that we've noticed, so I'm in regional Queensland, which is regional Australia, and the job opportunities aren't as vast as what they are in the capital cities. So we haven't had the mass resignation, but we have had a significant increase in requests for part-time work or compressed working weeks where a person will do full-time work over, say, 8 days or 9 days. We've had, drops in hours, so a significant shift in the hours that people work. We've always had fairly great flexibility and self-service options enabled within the systems that we use, and we've just continued to enhance them and leverage and utilise them, automate as much as possible, I guess. But yeah, those are some of the significant mindset changes I've noticed from multiple aspects of the business and multiple different levels from frontline agents to management to senior leaders.
Hey, thanks, Sunny. Hey, on the same lines, just wanted to probably probe, and I guess this question probably would be for all the other panelists also. So today, with this change, and we were able to set up, and we've seen the clients sort of accepting and agreeing to the remote setup wherever they were reluctant earlier. Tomorrow, and this is a challenge that I've seen in some of the organizations. That's the reason I just want to call that out. Tomorrow, if one of your clients insists that now could be because of any reasons, could be because of compliance reasons, could be because of quality of work, ask people to come back to work, so that 100% back to work. What kind of a challenge are you anticipating, if that call comes out tomorrow? But right, I think both from one employee perspective that okay, there might be some kind of a resistance. Secondly, from the changes that you have currently made in your work environment itself, in terms of probably releasing some of your capacity seats and all that. So just probably understand, and we can start with you, Nairi, and probably I'll go to the other panelist post that.
It's a very timely question, to be honest, because that literally happened yesterday. Okay. So we have been working from home since March 2020, but in July 2020, we're quite lucky in the region that I'm in. We've not been significantly impacted by COVID. We've not even had a case in the town that I live in. It's predominantly been in Brisbane, which is our capital city. So sometimes we are impacted by Brisbane lockdowns or Queensland-wide, go home orders, but fairly unscathed. So in July last year, we commenced returning to the office. So it's not something that's fairly new, but we did have quite a lot of flexible work requests come through for a couple of days at home and a couple of days in the office. And they've been supported by our managers and our senior leaders, which is wonderful because the organisation that I work for does pride itself on flexibility and, flexible work, I guess, and having that balance right between what the business needs and what the people need. Over the last, the reason why we couldn't return 100% in July last year, my building in particular and 3 other buildings for my organisation were not set up correctly for social distancing. So we had workforce, I guess, 50-50. We had people sharing desks not able to sit next to each other. So the leadership team, I was thankfully excused from this task, but the leadership team worked to essentially play jigsaw puzzles with who was coming in on what day and who was staying home, aside from the agents that needed to work permanently in the office for whatever reason. Over the last week and a half, we were asked again to 100% work from home so that our building could be restructured and altered in order to accommodate the entire workforce to return. and that started yesterday. So it's been successful, to be honest. I am lucky to work with some pretty amazing people, and we're quite a family and a team, I guess. And we have our challenges, but we move on and get over them. So we do have a couple of people that are really finding the transition a struggle, but out of hundreds of agents, a couple of people is okay. We can work with that. And the leadership team is working individually and one-on-one with those people, overcoming anxieties, overcoming fears, just that entire change piece. It's more significant than what we probably give it credit for at the surface level. So yeah, it's something that we're still working through. We do have our state borders are opening on Monday, the 13th of December. So Queensland has been fairly locked down from even states in our own country, but they are all opening on the 13th of December, and we're going to see cases in our region, and we will respond as appropriate, as directed by Queensland Health and our senior leadership and management team. So we're a fairly agile workforce these days. As I said, I think back to when I was trying to establish a remote on-call workforce, and I started with 3 laptops, then I got to 5, then I got to 10. Now I've got hundreds of agents who can work from home. So it's definitely quite a journey, and one that is a credit to our system support teams as well, our leadership teams. Everybody in the business has played their part.
Thank you, Nari. And Narita, do you have any thoughts around, how would you and your sort of organization, manage the change if that happens?
Yeah, and I agree that one of the challenges will be how to ensure that we have the space to accommodate to the physical distancing. But we do have a plan around that. We're constantly in watch of how many people are returning. But if the client, all of us, if it's not in plan and the client suddenly said, hey, tomorrow I want you guys all 100% back to the office, I think it's dependent on multiple other factors as well. Like how easily we could flip back. Also, if there's a technology thing that needs to be, changed in the workstations, and then also, of course, the willingness of the employees to return to the office, navigate traffic, and adjust their personal schedules around that. I think it would be the main challenge. And if we do flip back tomorrow, I would expect higher absenteeism. So that's something that we need to plan around, and have a plan around.
Understood. Hey, I don't know if you've lost Francia. I think she's not there anymore. The chair seems to be empty. Anyway, so yeah, so thanks for your response, Arita. So from a nice perspective, I may understand. So Arita spoke about technology, how easy and difficult, and I remember Nadia, you did mention that it doesn't really matter where the person is sitting, whether sitting in office or sitting at home, as long as there is a connectivity. And so from your perspective, do you see what kind of challenges do you see if if the environment changes tomorrow and everyone has to sort of come back to office? What would be the
I've helped a few organizations with how to use the WFM to model for like square meter rules and things like that, where the office isn't the office that it was. And what I mean by that is maybe pre-pandemic, you were able to comfortably seat 300 employees at capacity, but now due to the distance limitations, that physical location can actually only accommodate 200 employees. So even though the WFM detects the capacity for the workload, there's a physical seat restraint that needs to be built into the model. So we can do some of that as well. That's probably one thing that springs to mind, is that the capacity of the location may not be what it was. otherwise, I haven't really seen it too much in like a mass return. I think everyone's dipped a toe in the water. A few people have gone back here, gone back there, then they went back home. Now they've, I haven't really seen yet everyone all back all the time. I think if someone asked me to prepare for that for tomorrow, it might be a better way to answer it from a workforce management perspective. That would be the one thing that I would need to consider. The seating capacity, is that the same or has it changed? There might be like, are there any additional briefings, some sort of safety thing that people need to go to that they didn't need to before? Is there any other type of meeting that needs to happen to help ease the transition? But otherwise, the shifts would typically still be the same, although there might not be. If people have been working from home, that might be something else to consider, is does the availability change if the commute is now put back into the equation? Because when the commute came out, we saw people going, hey, I don't mind starting at 7 and I don't mind finishing it at 7 p.m. either, because I'm right here. I don't actually care. But when they now have to travel back to the office, they may say, actually, my availability is more constrained. I want to go back to the work rule that I had before. So you may need to do a bit of an audit of your folks and say, hey, you've been on this working rule. Are you going to stick with it now that you've got to travel to the office? And it could also be as well that there is like a phased approach. So perhaps a particular team or a line of business within the organization is going to come in, and we need to look at availability for those people and then gradually roll it out. You may need to look at the supervisors and team leaders and the support staff around, because typically we're not really rostering for those, but they need to be involved in the process and make sure that they know that their teams are being rostered to come back in. You could look at doing things like even gaming the activity codes. That's instead of just saying open time, you could say open in Brisbane for today. You could say that you're open but working from home today, so that when someone looks at the schedule, either via the web portal or mobile device, they can be directed as to what the location should be for them that day. There's a few little bits and pieces, but the forecast shouldn't change. The requirement shouldn't really change, but their net staffing might, if you're doing a little bit with them around extra support, extra meetings, and also if the availability changes. So probably just a little bit of housekeeping. They might need some extra hand holding.
Thanks, Andy. Oliver, anything that you would like to add to that?
It's, as you say, I think it's what we mentioned, I can really identify, and also I think what Nairi says also on the compliance and some new KPI of compliance, and something which is not really related only to WFM, but people are looking how to multi-factor authentication to make sure that the devices are accessed properly, but also for customer to make sure that the identification of the customer is coming upstream before going to the agent, so that all the complexity of compliance and to make sure that the information that is needed to the agent is probably lesser to avoid any risk of information and compliance. So we see many customers now trying to basically making it using the digital channels or even the voice to make this upstream, so that it doesn't come to the agent. The agent focus on helping the customer but not going through the identification. I think the compliance is, as mentioned before by Edita and by very, very, very important now.
Correct. Hey, so I guess we are sort of to the end of the roundtable discussion. So there are a lot of people listening to us. So so I would just like request closing comments from you to the audiences in terms of what they should look forward to probably in the coming period. So we can start with you, Oliver, and please.
Okay, so first, thank you very much for all the attendees and to the panel. I think it was very exciting for me as well to hear different opinions for people which we are working with. In more detail so they can share basically the challenges of how they've been, managing all these, usually very large workforce in this new environment. So it was very, interesting for me to hear how, the nice WFM solution is being used, and all the challenges that you had, and I look forward to join more time in the future. It was actually my first time for the GWFM to be part of the panel. And I really enjoyed this kind of how you put us on the same table, like the virtual world. Very nice to use all these new technologies. And I think we are, learning to use this more in the future with, these, as I say, AR, VR, and maybe with the avatars in the future. So I don't know, who knows how it will be. Anyway, thank you very much. It was really, really fun for me to hear, different opinions and different from Australia, from Philippines, from India. So really great.
Thank you, Oliver. Hey, Nadia, from your perspective.
From my perspective, yeah, I'll just say thank you. We always appreciate the opportunity to have a chat. To the folks on the call, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you ever have a question or an idea. One of the benefits of my role is I get to see lots of people doing lots of things. And so often I may have seen someone who's struggling with a similar challenge, or, it doesn't have to be always about nice product. I'm just happy to connect with people and have a chat about WFM. So you're welcome to LinkedIn with me. And thank you again for your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Nairi,
Ajay,
I've lost your chance.
it has been a great interactions.
we're just taking closing comments, Dr. Shiva, from everyone. So I guess we have Editha and Nairi. So we just close the comments. I know we have sort of gone above the time limit that you had set for us. So we just take the closing comments and then I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have some questions also from the audience.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Nairi, please, from your perspective, or your closing comments, please.
I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me to join today. It's been very insightful and a wonderful opportunity to connect with so many other like-minded individuals. I'd like to echo what Nadia said, and if anybody would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to reach out. I do have that article that I wrote, a couple of workforce planning related articles that I've got floating around the web. But yes, very much appreciate this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Editha.
I'd like to thank everyone, first of all, for the opportunity to be here today and hear the insights of my colleagues and these experts. And we truly don't know what the future holds for us. So I think it's really important that we learn from. Nobody wants the pandemic, but I think what we could get out of it is the learnings, right? And how we move forward and how we react to it. Sometimes we need to reflect, right? And I think one of the challenges is sometimes it's difficult for us to relinquish control. For example, when we look at the schedules and how we're managing them and how we're looking at our employees, but now we need to see at how we should shift towards empowering our employees more, and for them to be able to in some areas make decisions, choose their schedules, and be more flexible. So I think that's what I could say. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and to the audience, thanks for listening in patiently to whatever was being spoken. I really enjoyed the session. It was fun understanding from everyone. What I would probably leave back is I guess it's an ever evolving field, as well as one of the most enabling functions within our industry that we manage. And with all the changes that is happening, I guess it's your passion that would drive you to learn more and understand more in this particular field, more than anything, more than probably what you people are telling in terms of what you should learn, what you should not learn. It's your own passion, I guess, will drive you towards that. And I will leave you with one phrase which one of my very close friends keeps using, and which all the Harry Potter fans would probably be able to relate to, is constant vigilance. Yeah, so that's something that that we can look at from a WFM perspective. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Shiva. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jim. We have some of the questions from the audience. Let's take that. Sheikh Imran is asking the what we think of WFM innovation perspective. What are the methods WFM can help contributing to increase the revenue? How innovation can result in revenue improvement, increase in the revenue. Maybe he wants to know best practices that someone has used it, probably some use cases if we can share from any of the speakers' perspective.
Okay, so go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, when we're helping customers to build a business case for a WFM investment, one of the considerations can be things like an improvement in the customer experience. So when you're able to forecast more accurately, and we spoke about the innovation that's gone into AI forecasting, the closer you can get that number, the better prepared you are to deliver the grade of service that you're aiming towards, right? Whether it's chat, email, or whatever it is. And there's indirect benefits of that as well. Operationally, less overtime and a happier employee and a more balanced occupancy. But for the end customer, they get the greater service. They get through to somebody who's probably happy. They haven't been barraged by angry customers all day long. They may not churn in the way that they otherwise would when they're frustrated by trying to get through to your organization. So all of these things can be contributors to gaining customers and retaining them via your workforce planning practice and technology.
Sure. So increase in revenue from my perspective, when I look at it, there could be two ways that this question is being asked. So I don't know. So one is the fact that, if you are operating out of an enterprise or a captive environment wherein you are supporting your business as a WFM function, or if you are in a third party, as in so whatever you're doing, that itself is a revenue that is coming in. So from an enterprise perspective, I think whatever WFM does, is enhances customer experiences, anything that you do. So your customer retention, your, all those activities that leads to in itself, one secures the revenue and also looks at, if, probably looks at increased revenue at a later stage. So that's one thing from an enterprise perspective. But from a third party perspective, anything. So third party perspective, when we look at it, so today, if I bill my client on, calls or something like that. So I guess it's a tricky part when we talk about WFM, to look at WFM to increase the top line perspective. But one of the things that I look at it is WFM as a service, because WFM as a service, if you can put WFM out there as a service and a potential revenue opportunity by servicing, providing as a service to your end customers, I think that's also a revenue opportunity that you can look at from WFM perspective. And many organizations do that. It's not something new. It's not something that should be surprising. But yeah, that's something definitely that to be looked at.
Thanks, Jim. Do you have any other perspective from other speakers, or can we move on to the next question? All right, we'll move on to the next question. So there's a person, Akhilan Adwan, is asking a question. As you know, the tech hiring is gone, right? Everyone is hiring big time. There's no plans done as of now. What are the steps that we can take to increase joining percentage, considering exclusive and competitive opportunities for tech candidates like full stack developer, and etc. This is related to hiring questions. Any of you like to answer this question?
I'm happy to talk, but I'm not in the business of hiring tech staff, just hiring in general. I guess one of the things that I've learned in the last 12 months in particular is that essentially flexibility is the new currency when it comes to employee satisfaction and employee engagement and retainment. So another thing is the benefits that a person gets when they are working for you. And I've gone so far as to, so this is slightly outside of the workforce planning world, but I do actually own a mechanical workshop in my town here in Rockhampton. And trying to find trade qualified staff is quite challenging. So not tech staff, but trade qualified, similar. It's a specialised skill set. And recruiting Australia-wide. But the thing that I've found that has helped has been able to, it sounds quite simplistic to be honest, but putting together a one-page document which outlines the benefits that you receive as an employee. So over and above your everyday wages, the flexibility on offer, the use of vehicles, any other benefits and quirks, what else is it that the organisation can offer the staff member? So from my perspective, it's things such as sponsoring community events and attending. So we receive a lot of tickets to a lot of events around the community, and being able to share that with the workforce, give them the opportunity to represent the business outside of their everyday job. And just being able to provide benefits that exceed basic wages and superannuation in Australia. And it's about the experience of working for a business. So it's not just turn up to work, do my job, go home, but it's also feeling part of the family, feeling as though you're making a significant contribution to the business and what they're delivering. I know that is a little bit outside the realm of workforce planning and customer service centres and contact centres, but the same can be applied when it comes down to employment stability and security. It's what you're offering. The wages comparable? Are they competitive? Are you offering a great culture? Do people want to stay when they get to you? Just these are all the things that I would be thinking about.
Thanks, Nari. That's really been a very concise answer. My perspective, something like organizations should initiate build and buy model, borrow model. So building talent internally, upskilling is something very important, because hiring from the market would cost more, and also there'll be delay, and so business is going to suffer. Short-term hiring is fine, but long-term we got to really build talent. Rigorous upskilling, cross-skilling, and then skilling is something that's very important. If our organization doesn't do that, it'll be very difficult to have the talent building internally. Considering the fact that great resignations, right? So huge loss of resources, which is happening in the industry worldwide. Very important aspects of is building talent and also engaging talent, developing talent. Okay, these aspects that I feel that something very important. Any of you have any thoughts, you could share it. Otherwise, we will move on to the next question.
I guess both of you covered it very well. Thanks.
Okay, here's the next question from Reynaldo. He says, hello, esteemed panelists. I would like to get your thoughts on having service delivery, that is team leaders, to handle scheduling and managing real-time management.
I am happy to talk to this. However, I do recognise I just answered the last question, so I'm happy to sit down and let somebody else speak.
I'd like to say nobody should do this. You should just have a rules-based self-service platform that lets the software do it. Stop it. I think if the WFM is set up in such a way that it guarantees the desired business outcome, then it shouldn't really matter who is adjusting what. Having said that, it's good to really understand. One of the things that is companies are often challenged by is role clarity in the contact center. And, what does a team leader actually mean in your organization, and what should they be doing is often important, and what should the WFM team be doing? And there's no right or wrong answer for any organization. Some people are allergic to this. They hate the idea of anyone touching anything. Other people are a bit more open-minded about it. To my mind, back to my earlier part of the session, is that anyone who has the right permissions can make a schedule change. There's nothing overly it's just one of those things that has to happen in the WFM. So I'd be more looking to see what can we get rid of, not what person can do it, what can the employee do themselves through some sort of self-service, or what other technology can we leverage that it's just all automated wherever possible. I'm for it. If you set up the WFM in a way but they're not breaking anything, they have permissions to the right things. Maybe they can't add in annual leave or something, but they can make slight changes. Maybe they can't go so far into the future, but they can do on the day stuff. Give them direction and set it up in such a way that I can spend more time doing smart things like forecasting and less time making schedule changes. That's my 2 cents.
So mine is a very...
I 100% agree. That's exactly how I operate. I leverage the permissions within the workforce planning solution to enable self-service as much as possible, so that I can focus on the smart things and not focus on the data entry tasks that I don't want to be doing.
Yeah, and often even the team leaders don't want to necessarily do it either. I have tried this at different organizations, and some of them were really enthusiastic adopters, and others just like, I'm here to coach people. I'm here to ensure that people can progress through the organization. Why am I doing this? So I think it really comes back to what you want from each role. But if you find that you have the technology to do it and they're not breaking anything, go ahead. It's funny when you integrate WFM to payroll, this is where the notion of who does what to the schedules becomes really important. And so if you are going to link the two systems together, maybe I'll just give you some advice to maybe take a little bit more prudence with the governance of the system and make sure that those team leaders know the impact of adding things late on people's pay if you link the two together. But otherwise, I think try it with limited activities first and see how you go.
So my response would be a little, old school for that matter. So of course, technology is there, and technology is an enabler. But when we look at people, and I won't not dwell into the fact that whether it's a team leader, or for me, it's a scheduler and a real-time analyst, So from a role perspective, we want to put clarity to that. From a scheduler perspective, it's a balancing act for a scheduler. I mean, it could be done from the tool, it could be done from an individual, but the act is that, of course, at one side, you have your business requirement and you need to ensure that, it's being met. On the other side, it's your people requirement. People have preferences, people have challenges, they have their own daily schedules to meet it. So it's the role is to not, put one over the other, but to, balance it out between both. Of course, look at the business requirement, but also ensure that, people feel empowered in terms of choosing their schedules, are flexible enough to work through. And that's where probably the tool steps in, and, tool helps you to give that flexibility and your, that empowerment to people, so that, they feel that they own their schedules and, they can actually work around that. but also in the background, you're not compromising on the business. So scheduler's role become that tricky, looking at it, and also to adapt to the changes in the environment. So I guess that is also something that needs to be done either through the tool or through the individual who's looking at it. But again, those are certain things that needs to be on high on focus when we're looking into that. From a real time perspective, I guess again, does not matter whether it's an individual or it's the system which is doing it. What matters is that whether everything is being tracked on time and get reported out appropriately. There should not idly be any surprises when we're looking at information. A real-time team is a real-time analyst or a real-time function is very critical, because because we can predict or plan up to a certain limit, right? With all the historical information, with all the knowledge that we have, we can put the best plan forward. But who knows, what goes wrong, or what really happens, which could completely change your work environment. And who are there to look at it? It's the real time folks who are going to look at it and figure out what's happening. And so what we need is a system or individuals who could take quick decisions, adapt, change, and make those kind of changes immediately on a real time basis. So those are certain key areas probably needs to be focused upon when we look at these different roles.
Thank you. Anyone else to add in? Thank you so much. The next question is from, sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was and I agree. At the end of the day, we need to see we're managing according to the interval requirements, right? And the analysis sits with the WFM. So I think it's important that you have the people who are capable of making the decision against what your requirements are. But at the same time, it is a balancing act in that we need to some extent, we're handing this over to the agents themselves, right? In that we add flexibility in enabling them and empowering them to make the decisions around their schedules that still matches your demand curve.
Thank you. So we have Adelina who is asking, is it right to only use calls to do forecasting, or should we include other channel volumes to do forecasting as well?
It's right. Is it right to only use? It's right if that's the only channel that you have. If you have other channels, then it's not right. You need to.
Yeah, definitely use every channel.
Absolutely. Given the increase also in the non-voice forms, it's important for us to be able to use all available information to be able to forecast more accurately and to gain intelligence especially if you have multiple queues, so that you know how you could utilize your team, your agents better. If there's a cross-skilling needed or blended, if you need to blend your queues and stuff like that. So it's important to gain as much information as you could to be able to plan better.
So I guess it all stems with the fact that why do you do forecasting at all? What is the reason for forecasting? I guess the reason for forecasting, in a simpler way, is to probably project and ensure that we have the right, effort calculated. We have the right people sitting at the right time of the day, handling those, and servicing those requirements. So basically, if you think, you need to calculate the effort required for other channels and they need to be serviced, so they need to be forecasted also. You need to figure out when to cater them and how to cater them. So yeah, we need to forecast all channels.
Thank you all of you. There's one more question. This from an anonymous person. He asks, how do you address low hiring throughput? He has a follow-up question. How do you plan the concurrency if the trainer is out of capacity? The first question is, how do you address low hiring throughput?
But see, again, it completely depends upon the profiles that you're hiring. If that profile or that skill set that you're looking at is something which historically has proven to give you a lower throughput, then probably you need to look at, your offers being made and things like that. Because at the end of the day, when you calculate the capacity of your requirement, it's like, for example, you need 10 people, but what you realize is if you tell your recruitment team you need 10 people, you end up getting only 5 people. That means 50% throughput is what you're getting. So either that threshold needs to be set with your recruitment team or your capacity planning team. Instead of telling 10 people, you need to start telling them you need 20 people, so that you end up getting 10 people, and then you have to balance it out with them. Or they need to start looking at, if they need to give your operations or delivery function 10 people, they need to look at how they set up their hiring threshold, so that they get the right number of people. Because at the end of the day, in the business, what you need that, if you get less number of people, you cannot run that, you would have challenges. So you need to work towards that. With regards to the trainer capacity, so I'm not sure if I understood it correctly. Yeah.
Let me read the question again. How do you plan the concurrency if the trainer is out of capacity?
Just add so if you think about what a WFM is all about, it's about answering a question of how many staff do we need to do what to handle a service level, regardless of the media type that they're taking. So we're typically not modeling for things like a trainer's availability. It's not something that you normally run through a WFM system, and it's not normally the type of thing it's trying to answer. You can use things like the meeting planning tools to say that I want to have this number of sessions, and the sessions can overlap or they can't overlap because the same person is going to train them each time. But I'm grasping at straws here. It's not normally designed to say I have a trainer, how available is the trainer to deliver a content. It's more about when is the best time to have that lesson for the people who are attending the class, if that makes sense.
Anyone else to add in?
It's a little bit out of the typical application of WFM.
Look, yeah, it's not really a WFM question, but of course it becomes a WFM challenge, because
yes,
once people get trained, then only they can come into production. So I guess, from that perspective, it's a problem for the training team and the overall delivery. But I guess what I would suggest is, depending upon your capacity for, so if it's a seasonal business, and I'm assuming you do not have a need for trainers, throughout the year, but for a certain period, and that's where you actually face this kind of challenges. I guess it makes sense if we build certain internal capacity in terms of temp trainers or things like that, that could enable, these kind of scenario, and put your checks and balances to ensure the quality of training is in place. But I guess, I don't have a great answer for that at this point of time.
Thank you. We have another question from Gaurav Tyagi. This question is, what do you think about the reason of high attrition rates across industry these days, specifically for the last 6 months or so? Going back to the great resignations.
Yeah, the markets have opened up actually, so far people have been, working in a closed environment. I guess a lot of thinking happened during this period, behind when they were working from home and all that. People realized what's good for them, what's not, I guess. But the markets have really opened up. I guess, people are hiring, businesses sort of getting back to where it was, pre-COVID days already. And, there is a lot of mobility also that's happening. So that is resulting in high attritions. Apart from that, there are certain calls from certain organizations in terms of how they probably are focusing towards the future of work. And I guess some people like that, some people don't like that. And based on their choices, they are also making those moves. So those are certain things that is triggering this high attrition
I think I just add it's human nature as well. People are bored. So there's now like I had there's more divorces going on now, more relationships breaking up going on now. One of my colleagues said that one of their travel colleagues said they had the busiest day that they've ever had as soon as they heard lockdowns. Well, people want to do something, right? And they're just being bored with doing nothing. And I honest to goodness think that's what it is. A lot of these will be lateral moves. They'll go from blue company to green company because it's just a new thing. And this is where we can look at different ways unique ways to differentiate ourselves. But I think it's just a wave of churn that we're just going to have to ride out as best as possible. And it's not that one industry is more attractive than another or one company. It's just people are bored, I reckon. They want to do something. So let's just get a haircut, get a new partner, get a new job, get out of the apartment, and that's just what it is for all of us, I reckon.
I think some companies too handled the pandemic and the move to remote work very poorly. So once we've come out the other side and the job stability was there through the pandemic. It kept people busy, it kept them employed, it gave them, consistent income. But once things started normalising to a degree, then poorly handled response, people are exiting.
Okay, here is another question again from an anonymous person. How would you introduce WFM to operations person who's new to WFM?
The way I do it really is I start with the why WFM exists, what our role is and how we help. I think it's easier for people to appreciate what you do when you tell them how you're able to help make their lives easier and how it impacts them. So it depends on the level of person you're talking to. If it's an agent, I'd probably start with something around their schedules or something like that, or their PTOs, how WFM is helping out to determine the schedules and the PTO allocations. And it depend if it's an operations leader, then it definitely something that WFM impacts operations.
Thanks, Valley. Zester, I hope I got your name right. Here's a question saying, what do you do if the operation is pushing back the WFM plan?
What we'll do is, so we have time with time, and some of them are getting ready for the next meeting. So probably we could take those additional questions offline, and also we could answer them.
This was the last question.
Yeah, we can take this as last question. Yes.
Ask them to sign it off and tell them, tomorrow anything fails, that's on you, not on me. But yeah, so I guess basically repercussions. So basically what you need to explain is, if someone is pushing back, you just need to explain what happens. And I guess they're pushing back for a certain reason. They might be giving certain points. Probably it could be budget constraints in terms of, or they might have a thought process. Okay, what you're saying is not correct, and we could do with. And I'm assuming when someone pushes back, they're trying to reduce or the number of resources, or increase the number of resources that you are suggesting based on your plan. So I guess take that as a scenario, run it for them, and show them, the impact of that. And based on that impact, they can make a decision whether they are okay to go through that challenge. And if that works for them, then it's okay. I mean, So you are an enabler. You are trying to give them options. We're not trying to force any solution onto anyone, but we are giving them more and more options. So I would say it's not required for you to probably and force any plan onto anyone, or tell them this is what it should be done, but rather give them options, multiple options based on their requests, and based on that they can pick and choose. Of course, give them the impact of each of the solutions that you're providing, and based on that they can pick and choose what meets their requirement.
And I think if you've got a really strong relationship with the people that you're working for as well, that is fundamental, so that when you do clash, then it's a robust discussion, but you've already built the relationship, and you've already you know how to work with that person, and you're able to articulate the impacts quite clearly because you understand their learning style. Quite often, as you would all experience, this workforce planning and analytics is above the heads of some of the people that manage the frontline teams. So it's really being able to break it down into a solution that is understandable. Like this is the real impact, the genuine impact to the customer, and the genuine impact to the agents. I find quite often that the pushback is because it's a silo vision, and the person who's pushing back is only able to see one solution that they're fighting for, but they're not recognising the impact to the entire business. You've got to break those silos down.
Absolutely. With this, we would conclude the roundtable and GWFM NICE ASEAN WFM Summit 2021. We will have the discussions continuing offline, and all the leftover questions, we can answer it offline. Okay. So with this, on behalf of GWFM and NICE, we express sincere gratitude to all the speakers, Jim, Nairi, Francis is a step chaired the call, and Edita, Nadia, and Hollywood, and Mark has been a great learning and enriching experience sharing, and great insights. Thanks, Janice and Natline, for facilitating this, to have this as a last event, where we want to end with a good note, where we leave a lot of informations. And 2022, we begin with the big bang with new insights. And we have had around 340 registration, and around on and off we had around 200 people, 220 people had joined on and off because of the timings. So we really thank all the distinguished speakers for taking your time out in your busy schedules. And this has been streamlined. We went on live stream, and this video is going to be made available, and also like presentation that we have shared is also going to be made available for all the audience. Thanks, audience, for all your support, for being attentive, and lovely questions that we have asked for. It's been a great learning, and we'll all answer your questions in the text, and also we'll get in touch with each one of you. Thank you so much. With this, we close this session. Thank you so much again for everyone. Have a great day, and have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.